The topic for today is pivot table in Microsoft Excel. A pivot table can be thought of as a powerful tool to calculate, summarize, as well as analyze the data that allows us to look at various comparisons, patterns, and trends in our data. However, pivot tables work a little bit differently depending on the platform that we are using to run our Microsoft Excel software. There are a couple of points that we must keep in mind when it comes to using pivot table. Firstly, the data should not have any empty rows or columns. If you look at the data set that we are planning to work with in this video, it has no empty row. Also, it has no empty column. That is one restriction that must be kept in mind before implementing pivot tables. The second thing is it must have only a single row heading. Here in this data set, we can see that this particular cell selection is the header of the table. As you can see, company, company name, region, and so on. These denote the column headers together, making up the entire row heading, the entire single row heading for the given data set. Now, before demonstrating how to work with pivot tables, let's quickly have a look at the data at our disposal. The dataset, if we examine closely, has multiple columns starting with company, which denotes the company ID, company name, which denotes the name of the corresponding company, the region, which takes two values, America and Europe, the two regions at which the given products are sold, customer code, a unique ID which identifies the customer whose name is found in the next column called customer name, the product code denoting the unique ID for the product being purchased, and also the product description for the product being purchased. Along with that, we have a quantity column which denotes the quantity of the product that is being purchased and the sales value in US dollars for the products that have been purchased by the customer. With the data set being clear to us, let's try to implement a pivot table in order to drill down deep into the data set that is available at our disposal. Before looking at how to implement a pivot table, we must ensure that our cell or our selected cell, which is denoted by this black bold rectangle surrounding it, is one of the cells in the entire data set. So this is the entire data set region, right? If you look at it, this is the entire data set region. If I just go down and stop here, I find that this is the entire region of my data set. All that I need to do is in this entire region, I need to select any one cell. I need to select any one cell. Take, for example, I end up selecting this cell just randomly. I go to the Insert tab, and under the Insert tab, I find the Tables ribbon, under which I find the Pivot Table option. I click on it, and I find that a dialog box opens up from which I have to select appropriate radio buttons. Now, the data set is already available to me, so the table or range is already selected. This is the name of the data set that we are working with, T sales. And another thing that is to be noticed is the region of the data set, excluding the column header, is surrounded by marching ants. So the marching ants give a clear indication as to the entire data set on which the pivot table will be created. The second thing that we have to decide is where do we want the pivot table to be placed? I would personally recommend to go with an existing worksheet, because if you go with an existing worksheet, you'll be able to compare the data set with your pivot table very easily. If you go with a new worksheet, you can go for it, no problem. But what happens is it becomes difficult to go back and forth from one worksheet, which contains only the pivot table, and to the other worksheet which contains only the data set. So my recommendation is to select the existing worksheet option and go ahead with the creation of the pivot table. So what we do is we select this radio button called existing worksheet and we click on a cell, let's say the starting cell from which we want the pivot table to begin. So here I will select this cell. You can select any other cell which is in the region, which is in the appropriate blank region. You can select any other cell. And after you've selected the cell, you can just click on OK. Now, if you click on OK, you find that this right pane opens up, right? This is the pivot table list, which will guide our analysis of the data set given to us. So let's start. Without further ado, let's start and see how we can go about it. So let's see how we can drill down on our data using the pivot table. Let's try to analyze the given data set. Let's say we want to work on the sales value. That makes sense, right? So as you can see, there are 4 fields. If you look at the pane here, the pivot table field list, this right pane, you find that there are 4 boxes, right? There are 4 boxes, and this particular box called values, this denotes the field on which we want to see the entire data set. So without talking much about it, let's try to demonstrate. So all that you need to do is you need to click on this sales option and you simply drag it to the values section. So if I drag it to the values section, okay, maybe it did not take place. Okay, let me do it again. Yeah. So as we can see that we get the sum of sales, right? Because the default function for the values box is the sum function. So what we do is we simply drag the sales option or the sales field under the values section, and we see that we have the sum of sales. Okay. Now, of course, only having the sum of sales doesn't make much difference. Let's try to understand more. Let's say we want to find the sales with respect to a particular customer. Okay, so let's try to bring in the customer name as my column labels. And here we find that, okay, let me just drag it. Yeah. So here we find that the sum of sales is mentioned for every customer. Can you see? So for every customer, the sum of sales is mentioned. Have a look. If you go to the original data set, nothing to worry. Even if the pivot table pane disappears, we can always bring it back. I'll show you how you can bring it back. But if you look at the customer names, here you have the customer, you have one customer called Delicia. So you have her value here. As you can see, again, it's back. The moment I click on this area, it comes back. The pivot table pane comes back. And the moment I select any other region, it goes away. Okay, so we can see that Delicia is one of the customers. Then you have Irma. So her detail is also here, 43240. Then you have a customer called, yeah, here it is, Liber. So you find Liber's details here. And you also have the details regarding Ida. I don't know even these names are actual names or not, but anyway, let's stick to it. So here you can see details about this particular customer called Ida. So we are able to find the sales value for every customer. Now this is an interesting fact, isn't it? We would want to find the values, or we want to find the amount of purchase that every customer has made. Now, what would be the usefulness of this? The usefulness of this could be very simple, that if we are able to understand which customer is purchasing maximum amount from my company, then I could target those customers, or I could target that particular customer with more products of a similar type. So it makes sense. It makes sense to find the purchasing power or the purchasing habit of every customer, or let's say a group of customers in a company, right? So here we have a very small data set at our disposal. So we have only we have 4 unique customers. But in real world scenarios, you'll find more customers. You'll find more customers at your disposal, and you'll be able to do better analysis. Okay, you'll be able to do better analysis. But for now, this limited data that we have, we are able to do well. We are able to do well. And you can understand, even if you have a lot of data, you'll be able to scale up. You'll be able to scale up easily. So this is one question that you may have had in your mind, that what is the purchasing habit of every customer, or how much is every customer contributing to the total sales of my company? This is how you do it. You simply take the customer name attribute and you place it in the column labels. Now you might ask, why only column labels? Why not row labels? Why not? You can do it in the row labels as well. You'll get the same results, but the orientation of the table will simply change. So just have a look. If I just drag it down here, there you go. Now you see that the customer names are appearing, but in a columnar fashion. Previously, it was appearing in a row fashion, in a row wise fashion. Now it's appearing in a columnar fashion, but you're getting the same result. So it's completely a matter of your personal choice, how you want to represent your data. Okay. So this is what it is. Okay. And not only customer name, we can do even better analysis. We can look at the purchasing habit of every customer with respect to a product. So what we can do is we can take something like a product description and bring it to the column label. See what happens. Can you see? Interesting, isn't it? So you can see all the products. So here we have limited data, as I've always said. So here we have only 4 customers. So you're able to get the purchasing habit of every customer with regards to every product. See, so you have this particular customer, Ida, who has purchased a laptop bag, which is black in color, a laptop bag, which is red in color, and the customer has purchased a smartphone case, which is probably diamond in shape, also a simple smartphone case, and so on. So every product that this customer has purchased and the price for each of those products is mentioned here, right? So you can switch things around. If you want, you can bring the product description. So you can bring customer name as the columns, just drag and drop operation, and bring product description under row labels. So maybe this gives you a better picture. Personally, it does. If you ask me, this gives a better picture. Otherwise, the table was getting scrolled way towards the right. So I think this is giving us a better picture, right? And we can also apply filtering. We can also apply filtering. And how do we do that? Maybe we want to filter based on the region. So we bring that in. Okay, it all depends on what you're trying to solve. I'm just using my imagination here. So it makes sense to filter based on the region. So right now we have data regarding all the customers and the products that they have purchased and the total sales value. This is for both the regions. Remember, there are 2 regions in this data set, Europe and America. So if you want, you can narrow it down. You can say, I want it only for America. So you want it only for America. So you click on America. You see, you get values, or you get those products purchased by those customers from the American portion of the shop. So this shop, like the data set which is given to us, we can see that the region is either America or it's Europe. So it's safe to assume that there are companies which are situated either in America or in Europe. So the customer may purchase from America or may purchase from Europe. So we are filtering on the region. So we see that if we are looking at the American region, these are the products that are being purchased by these 2 customers only. Remember, there are a total of 4 customers. So we can see that not all customers are purchasing from the American region. Only 2 customers are purchasing. So this is useful information. A company can use all this information in order to come up with proper business plans. That, okay, in this particular region, I don't have too many customers buying my products. So maybe it's a good idea to stop operations here, or maybe to reduce the operations slightly and focus on those regions where I'm getting more sales. So let's look at Europe. So if I select Europe and click on OK, I find that Europe has again 2 customers from the European region. 2 customers are purchasing products, and this time we see that there are even fewer products being purchased. So if you look at the American part, you find that there are a variety of products. that are being purchased by the customers. But if you look at the European region, we find that there are only 4 products that are being purchased by the customers. Again, this is also fairly useful information, isn't it? So in this way, you can go on using the various combinations of your filter, columns, and rows to gain useful insights from your data. This is how a pivot table actually works. It's a fairly simple idea, but at the same time, it's extremely powerful. So I hope this video has helped you to understand what pivot tables are. If you have any doubts, please feel free to comment in the section given below, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye bye.